everybody. I am Dr. Sharon Cook, and today we are talking to Mrs. Tara Milburn. She is the founder and CEO of Ethical Swag, a sustainable branding company that helps brands achieve their ESG goals through sustainable team building, employee recognition, and most importantly, eco-friendly corporate gifting. Hi, Tara.
Hi, Sharon. How are you?
So I gave you a little bit of an intro, but why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Awesome, thanks. I'm Tara, and I've been around for a long time. I've had probably about a 30-year career, and swag was not always my business. I come from a background of sports and entertainment, marketing, communications, foreign direct investment. Always wanted to be an entrepreneur, knew it was going to be in my cards. Quite frankly, didn't know what the business was going to be. I just knew that I wanted to address some pretty big business issues or big corporate issues and planet issues through business, because I think it's a fabulous vehicle for change. And so when I was thinking about that, I was thinking about, I needed it to align with my values, and I felt like a lot of things were broken around how we were building our organizations and how we weren't supporting the people within them, and we weren't supporting the planet we live on. And I just thought that this was a phenomenal industry to take a look at addressing some of those big issues in a different way. So that's kind of how I ended up in Ethical Swag and entrepreneurship. It's, I'm one of those after 50s entrepreneurs, and I've always known that I wanted to create a business. I just needed to wait until the right time, and the time was right now.
I am also an after 50 entrepreneur, and I know sometimes you can just fall into something that you love. For me, I've always done procurement, so this podcasting thing is a creative outlet that are we still good? You still good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
This podcasting is just a creative outlet that I just fell into. But did you have an interest in green initiatives before you realized this was a problem, or did you see there was a problem and you're like, I think I can do something about it?
So it's interesting because when I think about sustainability, I think about sustainability as far more than just green initiatives. So when we talk about Ethical Swag and we talk about some of the things that we're doing within Ethical Swag, we use the word sustainability because we feel that sustainability really ticks a lot of boxes. So yes, green, and when we define green, I think that folks would sort of recognize that as sort of eco, maybe as a word that people use. It's planet friendly, that sort of thing. And so for me, it's absolutely planet friendly, but it's also how do we show up at work? For sustainability, how do we engage with our suppliers? How do we engage with our clients? And that is really the part that was really that gets me out of bed in the morning. And that's something that's always been of significant interest to me, because being in the corporate world for many, many years, I saw that it had such a power to make change. I worked for the 2010 Olympic Winter Games in Vancouver, and I was in the very, very, very first, there was 3 or 4 of us conceiving of it. And it wasn't, we want to host the Olympics. It was Vancouver was looking to get the global spotlight for tourism. Vancouver was looking to improve its infrastructure through rapid transit and that sort of thing. And they saw the Olympics as a vehicle to address some very large issues. Infrastructure projects, tourism awareness, et cetera, et cetera. And it taught me, and that was back in the 90s, a long time ago, that we can use business as a vehicle for change and have some pretty significant impacts. And so that's the root of me wanting to do this. So is it an interest in green initiatives, or is it actually an interest in using business as a force for good to address things like green initiatives and social compliance and supply chain security, and how do we help our clients in solving problems? So does that answer your question?
No, it really does. And I will say, I don't think it's something that a lot of people are looking at it from your angle. You know, what is it, like 20 years ago, LEED certified became the thing. Are you LEED certified? Everybody was talking about your light bulbs. Um, but at the time, you know, the biggest argument to that was it's so expensive. It's too early. It's not time. So to hear you go, listen, it's bigger than light bulbs. It's about the supply chain. It's about a lot of a lot of other things. And I find that interesting because I don't think a lot of people are talking about the whole process.
Right. Yeah, for sure. And that's really why I'm doing it. And it's not, I just think there's another way to do it. I feel like we've kind of fallen apart in the last 50 years, honestly. I think back and I saw a post recently where there was a middle class house, and it was, somebody who was a shoe repairman could afford to, um, maintain a family home and a family lifestyle. And we were talking last night about how our kids can't afford mortgages. Like there's so many things that seem to have created this huge gap in reality, as far as I'm concerned. Like,
Right.
why are we here? We're here to live, to support each other, to not wonder whether or not we can put a roof over our heads, or if you're going to end up living in your car because you can't afford your mortgage or your rent. But then there's the space race where folks think it's really important that we spend billions of dollars on going to, I don't know, I just feel like there's just a bit of a disconnect in terms of how we live. And so
Right.
I'm looking to address all of it.
No, I think it's, you know what, it's going to be such a weird thing. But last night, my husband and I were talking about my daughter and son-in-law, and they live in Philly. And my daughter made the comment, they will probably be the first generation that cannot afford to buy a house. You know, from, let's say, the World War II era or World War I era, when everybody came home and they bought a house and they settled down, and they will be the first generation at this point that is outpriced. The market is outpriced, and they're a two-income household. They have good incomes and do not feel like they can buy a home.
Exactly. And you hear about, and this is where I feel like business is such an opportunity to address these things. But we can't do it from when I first started Ethical Swag and people didn't really understand what I was doing, I had some people say, well, you should be a not-for-profit, or you should be a social enterprise. I'm like, no, we've got to show that you can be wildly successful in an in-profit business model, because that will encourage other people to go into business in a for-profit business model. But think about more than just shareholder value as a measure of success. So
Right.
the more we have companies saying, okay, it's important to be successful and it's important to make money, but it's also important to think about the people that are doing the work and think about where we're getting our products. And that's, if that makes any sense, that's kind of.
No, it does. So I had told you earlier, you had given an interview and you had talked about the three P's. But now I feel like before we get into the three P's, let's talk about ethical swag a little bit more, because I do want people to understand what you are doing and what service you are providing. And I know it's not just gift bags. That's just a tiny little piece of it. But to give me, if somebody had never done any research on you, what does ethical swag provide?
Right. So, I'd even take a step back. So if you think about the word ethical, if you ask 10 people how to define ethical, you'd get 10 different
Mm-hmm.
answers. Okay. So I'll unpack for you really quickly, just even the name that I came up with, right?
Yeah.
So swag is a term that a lot of people associate with the kinds of items that carry logos, right? So um, products that you see at meetings and conventions, but also just hoodies and briefcases and all those kinds of things. So just for the purpose of this interview, that's what swag actually means here.
Mm-hmm.
It's logoed merchandise. Okay. And then the ethical piece, when I came up with the idea for ethical swag, and I was like, okay, I feel like there's another way, because I felt that there was a disconnect between what people were putting their logos on and what they actually stood for and said they stood for in terms of sustainability. And I was like, wow, there seems to be a complete disconnect here why is that? So it's not from a place of I'm in the swag business and now I'm all of a sudden going to offer green swag. It's I am in the corporate world. And I'll tell you, actually, I was invited. So I was director of foreign direct investment for the region in which I live. And we had a meeting with the head of the community college, because talent acquisition and labor and that sort of thing is a really, key piece to some of the stuff that we were doing. And the head of the community college said, oh, we're building a new campus and it's LEED certified and it's got geothermal and we've got carbon offsets, and talked about the tens of millions of dollars that they were spending around sustainability for their new campus. And about 3 weeks later, I was invited to a different campus to be one of the speakers at a business class. And my thank you gift, which was a logoed merchandise like journal, did not reflect the values, the mission, and the, quite frankly, tens of millions of dollars that they were spending on this building. And I was like, wow, what a lost opportunity. Here I am visiting their campus, and something that's worth $20 doesn't actually tell me about this organization. So why is it that they're putting their logo on this product? And clearly they feel that sustainability is very important, but it's not translating into the products that bear their logo. And that's how I came up with the idea for ethical swag, and thought, wow, this is a problem that needs solving, really. And so I approached it from problem solution standpoint, not, if that makes any sense.
It does. And I just want to know what the feedback is. Did you ever go back to that university and be like, you could do this better, and here's some ideas? Like, did you take, what was that like?
Totally, I did.
Yes, you okay.
And it was like crickets. They weren't interested. So I was like, okay, I don't want to do this because I don't want to sell swag for a living, because that's not who I am. I got no interest in selling pens with logos. I see it as a vehicle for change, not knocking on doors and telling people they need to buy swag.
Right.
So it was really like, I'm glad you asked that question, because I find it really interesting that I actually know the people at this community college. I knew the head of the community college, and I was like, here's a solution for you. And not interested. They didn't come right out and say they weren't interested, but it felt like I had to sell them on it. And I'm like, I'm not actually, like, I'm looking to solve a problem for you. I'm not looking to sell you anything.
Right.
And so I almost didn't do ethical swag because I was really not interested in selling.
Right.
And I thought my gut instinct was wrong. I literally thought, yeah, this isn't going to work, because there was actually another university that I went to, and I knew the president of the university. His wife has a PhD in sustainability. He had been the vice president of sustainability for Body Shop Worldwide. Clearly, there was a real focus on sustainability, and I said, I've got a solution for you. And again, it was like, oh, it's kind of, everybody buys their own. And there was just not sort of that, we really want to do this, let's figure out a way. And so I really came back to my office and said, I don't know if I want to do this, because I don't want to try and sell this stuff. And then I did something I probably should have done at the beginning. And I actually did primary and secondary research. I was flying on gut instincts to begin with.
Right.
The people who I thought were going to be my customer were not my customer, is what I uncovered in my research, which I literally had an aha moment. And when I realized that I was going to the top of these organizations, and organizations where people said that sustainability was really important, when I did my research, I decided I was going to do more of a bottom-up approach. Because a lot of the folks that actually buy swag are the marketing coordinators or the marketing directors, or sometimes it's even the receptionist or whatever. And I found that sustainability really aligned with their personal mission. And it did or did not, it didn't seem to matter so much in my research that it aligned with their corporate mission. And I was like, oh, okay, this is okay. I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit of a back door. Let's just make it really easy. And so we're on a quest around awareness, not sales. And because honestly, swag is everywhere. And so everyone I talk to, they're like, oh my God, my brother-in-law buys, his company buys swag. And oh my God, my sister, her company's massive and they buy swag. And I always say, yeah, I know, everybody buys swag. And our customers self-identify. And I'm not really interested in knocking on doors and saying, you need to buy from us because we're better than somebody else. Because quite frankly, it's not about being better or worse or good or bad, or we're just different. And our customer self-identifies because what we're doing and what we're saying speaks to them and speaks to what they're trying to achieve. So that's sort of how it's sort of a different angle. But it's once we figured that, or I figured that out, and I started communicating through our website and through what we were doing in that vein, the flood, like all of a sudden, once people could find us,
Right.
we've yet to do advertising. There's a lot of people that want what we're doing. They just don't know we exist.
Right. Well, I hope to be a small, tiny piece of changing that.
Woo! I love
That's
that.
awesome. Okay. So let's go back now and talk about your 3Ps. So you had said there was 3 character traits that were instrumental to your success. What was that?
Okay. So my 3Ps are positive attitude, persistence, and perspective.
Yeah.
Okay.
And all 3 of those can be difficult to achieve.
Yeah. But I also think it's just if we think about it and we're conscious of them, it's not as difficult.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, having a positive attitude in this day and age where everything is so unknown, I'm sure that's a struggle for some people, but nothing lasts forever. Nothing negative lasts forever. So it's always easy to come back to a little bit of a positive spin.
Absolutely. And it's interesting. I've always been kind of interested in it. And I remember reading a study. I can't remember, I can't cite where the study was or anything like that, but there was a couple of gentlemen that were going to write a book around happiness, like how to achieve happiness. And I thought it was really interesting. This is probably 15, 20 years ago. And they researched and went around the world looking for like the happiest people in this little village and the happiest person in this place. And they were going to do the top 100 things that were going to make you happy. And it boiled down to actually 7, to be honest, when they did their research. And I wish I could cite who they were. It was so long ago. It really was quite impactful for me when I was
Right.
listening. And sense of purpose was basically at the foundation of that happiness for everybody that they interviewed.
Right.
So they had a woman that was forced into prostitution during the Vietnam War, whose family disowned her because of her prostitution, but they had threatened her that if she didn't do it, they were going to kill her family. So she did it to keep her family alive, but her family actually alienated her because of it. And but when they were doing the research, they found that she was the happiest person in their village. And it's like, how could you have all these horrible things happening to you and you still have that? And it just always boiled down to a sense of purpose. That's as amazing. The number one thing around happiness. And if you think about that. Yeah.
All right. Well, tell me something that you enjoy to do in your free time, things you're most passionate about other than your business.
Oh my God, I got so many things.
Oh, good. Tell me a couple then.
I would probably boil it down to connection if I was going to say one thing. So connecting with folks. I love being around people. I love skiing and walking and hiking and going to the gym and all the things that have been really difficult really during COVID. I love that connection, that sense of connection. I love hearing people's stories. I love being with people. I just get energy from it. And so that would be sort of probably my favorite thing to do outside of work. I love work too, because I just think
yeah, awesome. I do too. I love what I do. Okay, tell people what's the best way to get you. What's your preferred method of communication?
To reach me personally, I guess LinkedIn probably. I'm on LinkedIn, Tara Milburn, Ethical Swag. Ethical Swag, we kind of own Ethical Swag right across the board, like ethicalswag.com, ethicalswag.ca. In Twitter, we've got Ethical Swag, Instagram, Facebook. So we're pretty easy to find. And if folks are trying to find me and they send an email to any, info@Ethical Swag, and they say, I'm looking for Tara, they always send, our team always sends it along. So
Nice.
yeah.
All right. Well, Tara, thank you so much for doing this. I really hope that I get to play a small part in getting the word out.
I really appreciate the interest, Sharon, very much.
All right. I'm going to hit unrecord. All right, everybody. That was interesting, right? That means something you never think about is when you go to a trade show and you get handed a million pens and pencils and notepads and little things, that there is a way to do that in a green fashion, in an ethical fashion. And I think she's in an untapped market. So reach out to Tara at Ethical Swag and support the show, guys. If you like this kind of content, we would love to hear from you. Please hit like, subscribe, do all those things. You can find us on Spotify, Insta. Let's see here. I don't know. Spotify. You guys know what I'm saying. We're also on YouTube. Today's not my best day to be podcasting, guys. I'll be honest. It's been a crazy ride. But listen, if you enjoyed the show, please support the show. If you'd like to be a guest, please reach out to us. We are always looking for interesting guests, and we'll talk about just about anything. Have a nice day, guys. I will talk to you next Tuesday.